Cool. I've never done this before, so
No, me neither.
we're both learning. So yeah, Marty Roestenburg, nice to catch up.
Good, mate.
Thanks for doing this. So you're the what's your role with the series?
I'm the coordinator of the North Island Rally Series.
Yeah.
We started it 2 years ago. This is our year 3.
Yeah.
And it was really to try and replace what had been missing from the old Top Half, Central Region and Extreme Rally Series that hadn't run for 8 years.
Yeah.
And I felt that the sport in the North Island was heading down the gurgler and somebody needed to do something. So I managed to talk Rob Scott and David Hedge into joining with me on the committee, and we've launched the North Island Rally Series.
Cool. And how does the North Island Series fit in the grand scheme of New Zealand rallying?
So we're trying to connect clubmans at the grassroots level to give competitors experience and exposure to rise to NZRC if they want to.
Yeah.
So it's really to connect those steps on the ladder that we're missing.
Yeah, and part of that, I guess, is like the top prize is a entry fees paid for the NZRC for the following season, right?
Well, not the entry fees, just the registration fee.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, that's a lot of cash there. How many events are typical in a North Island Rally Series season?
Yeah, so I mean, at the moment, while the economy's a bit tight, we've got 5 rounds this year. We had 5 rounds last year. We had 6 rounds the year before, and we'd like to get up to 7 or 8 rounds at some stage once the economy improves. But at the moment, we've scaled it back a little bit because sugar's a bit hard to find.
Yeah, and then it's a mixture of sprints, and like we're at Ruarangi Road today, which is a rally sprint kind of setup. But
so because there had been a lack of rallies in the North Island, we're still on an upward trajectory to trying to get more rallies. It's a big job for car clubs to organise.
Yeah.
So we've been really lucky that the rally sprint organisers have allowed us to sort of hybrid mix with them to bring our round numbers up.
Yeah.
But their goal is for it to be a rally series.
Yeah.
And, we've got a very successful rally sprint series. If we can get a successful rally series going as well, that'll all be the feeder for NZRC or beyond.
Yeah. So that's sort of a bit about the series. Oh, and then I guess the sponsors as well. So who are the key
so
supporters?
This year we've got Hawkswood Mining on board as our naming sponsor. Last year was Generator Rental Services. The year before that was Hayden Paddon and the WinMax brake pads group. So they've been our naming partners, but we're lucky enough to have a family of about 12 partners that chip in a little bit together and all make the magic happen.
Is it quite hard to get support, or do you have people coming to you that are more than happy to help out?
We have to be quite proactive in hunting out sponsors and partners, and it's not easy at the moment the way the economy is, but we don't just need money. We're having products and services for the competitors is just as good as money to us. So it's a lot easier for some companies to help you with products and services as opposed to putting some money into your bank account.
And with that, do you find that kind of gives a bit of an incentive if you can say, like the coaching that Hayden Paddon's providing, for example, like that kind of thing is almost an incentive for competitors to get involved in?
Neil Allport was one of our major partners for the last 2 years, and he gave $10,000 worth of discounts in the season to the NIRS competitors. So that was a huge boost for them. So Neil's actually been one of the most generous partners in leaving 20 grand on the table over the last 2 years. Unfortunately, he has to upgrade his equipment this year, so we haven't got Neil for this year. But then we had Rally Drive New Zealand come on board, and they've donated $4,000 worth of vouchers to give away to the youngest and the newest competitors and to the volunteers, which is really near and dear to our heart.
Yeah, cool. So getting into sort of talking about planning a rally, which as a competitor is like almost a secret kind of it's a peek behind the curtain, you know what I mean? Like I've always been really curious to know sort of what goes on there. So I guess the first thing would be how far in advance do you have to go to plan or start planning?
So in this day and age when there's so many hurdles to jump through with councils and residents and iwi and the community groups, we're generally planning 12 to 18 months out from the event date, and then you can move slowly and ask people rather than tell people, and work with the community groups and work with the residents, and if they have any little issues that you can identify early, then you can mitigate that in your route plan and the way that you structure your event.
Right. And that's things like even slow speed zones or
That's whatever their issues are, we really got to make that go away for them so that they support the sport rather than being resentful towards it.
So if with 12 to 18 months you'd be already well into next year, and even the year beyond.
We've already done the route planning for the North Waikato Rally in March next year. The Taumaranui team are plotting their route
I've heard rumours there.
for middle of next year. And I think the more organised we can get and the more strategic we get with our planning, the more successful the events will be.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. And what's the biggest challenge that you guys face as organisers when you're setting up a rally event?
It's at the moment it's really the financial risk side of things, because it's about 60 grand to run a national permitted rally, and you get 30 competitors at $1,000 each. There's still quite a big gap there, and all the costs have gone up with event medics and Rally Safe and Motorsport New Zealand levies, and everything sort of comes in multiples of 10. So trying to mitigate that. And what we've done is got the joint venture of 3 car clubs together, so that, God forbid, if there is a loss, that it gets divided by 3, but it also multiplies the resources that you've got for the event. So collaboration is definitely the way forward, and we've actually been talking to the Central Region clubs to see if they can form a joint venture collaboration to support the Taumaranui rally. So fingers crossed that
paddling that waka in the same direction.
That's it.
From like the first idea to the rally day, like what are the key, I guess right at the start you're talking about getting all the residents notified and the communities notified. What about when you get a bit closer, maybe say 6 months out? And
well then it's getting down to the traffic management plans, the road closure applications, the resident visits, visiting with iwi, visiting with the councils and making sure that we're on board with them and that we're not going at a time of the year that's inconvenient for them. A lot of it's about coordinating. We'll work in with their roading contractors and get them not to do maintenance on the roads for a few months before the rally, and then as soon as we come through, then they come through afterwards and help mitigate that road damage, because road reinstatement is one of the big costs that can bite the clubs on the bottom, and not-for-profit car clubs, so there's no big bag of money there that you can spray around. So there's lots of things as organisers that we need to do to try and mitigate those risks. Which
is why I guess as well, when there's a little bit of rain, you've got to be careful about cutting it up too much, and all that gets factored in.
And when we're planning our events and which time of the year, obviously late summer, autumn, the roads are harder, there hasn't been so much rain, and we found that in the North Island, the second half of the season is very busy when NZRC gets back from the South Island, and there were hardly any events in the start of the season. So now we're putting some focus on putting some events into that start of the season, not only to fill the calendar up, but also to mitigate that road reinstatement damage.
Cool. And then I guess when you get a lot closer, you start choosing and preparing the actual stages themselves. So who gets to jump in the car and go for a home?
We start off on a desktop, and the computer, and we've got some really good people that, and so I go out to whoever the locals are and go, which are your best roads? And they go, well, what roads do you want? I go, well, ones with no straights in them would be good, because rallying's all about the corners. And so we sort of draw knowledge from a wide base and then lay it out on a map and see if it's got a flow to it and see how we can connect it all together.
Put service in the middle somewhere.
And we don't want too much touring stages. It's all about the special stages. So our rally for the North Waikato is going to be about 150 k's of special stages and about 80 k's and about 80 k's of touring.
Will that also be an NZRC event or no?
Very perceptive.
That's quite a bit longer than some of the other NIRS rallies.
I mean, NZRC are a bit short of rounds in the North Island at the moment, so now that we've done Dargaville, that's opened up the Kaipara District Road, so Rally Whangarei can expand across into the Kaipara District. Tiako, there have been a few issues with residents and consultation down there, so we're going down there now to get them on board and try and make it a collaboration between everybody. And our ethos is to try and organise a community event that a rally is a part of, rather than the other way around. And that way we're getting much more buy-in from the residents and the councils and the iwi and all the groups.
I wasn't at Dargaville, but I know that getting all the cars in the middle of the town, having an event there and getting the community to come and have a look.
Create a market, family-friendly type festival, and we had circus acrobats and a band and market stalls there, and just try and add some real nice family atmosphere to the service park.
What about, so we've got Taranaki, which is a tarmac rally, and we've got, say, Waitomo, which is a blind rally and 4 stages. So how do you kind of look at a whole season and go, oh, we want to have a mixture of different types of
Yeah, I mean,
events?
it's really up to the clubs as to what their resources are and what their capabilities are.
Yeah.
And we would like all of our rounds to be a national permit and a clubman's permit. But if a club has only got the resources to do a clubman's, we'll say thank you very much. You know, any event's better than no event. So it's one thing to have these models and templates and stuff about how you'd like it to be, but it really gets back to the clubs and what kind of event they're willing to put on and how that's going to work.
Variety, I think, is great.
Yeah.
And I think we've touched on it a bit about road closures and medical, getting the medical staff here and stuff, but are there any other sort of permissions and approvals that you need to get, maybe from Motorsport New Zealand?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you have to apply for the date.
Yeah.
You know, we have to apply for the permits, of course, and then we're doing all our supplementary regs. They have to be critiqued by the permit issuing steward in the area.
Yeah.
So there is, you know, there's so many, it's such a technical sport, there's so many rules and regulations that we can have all these great ideas, but then it needs to be passed by the people in support of the support office to make sure that we've got all the boxes ticked, really.
Cool. Behind each event, how big's the team that you've got?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've kind of changed the previous model. We only had 4 or 5 people in the organising committee, so we've got 12 to 15 for each of our events, and that's because people's lives are so busy now that they can't commit as much time voluntarily as they used to be able to.
Yeah.
But if we put 3 or 4 people into each sector that needs to be taken care of, and one person's down, another person's up, and so the momentum continues. So we're going wider now with our committee. And then on the day, I mean, it's 100 plus people when you count block marshals and officials and all that side of things. So, and then you've got your competitors on top of that. So typically we're bringing 300 to 400 people to a district for a day's fun.
That's incredible, really. And you only see, as competitors, you only see like a portion of that, but you got to, because you're flying by so quickly, you don't realise how many marshals and people with radios are standing on corners and all that sort of stuff, eh?
Yeah, and we're putting a big focus on saying thank you to the volunteers and showing our appreciation and our respect for their voluntary time. You know, we're starting to organise more and more spot prizes and things that we can give to the volunteers that makes them feel appreciated, and then they might come back again as well, which would be good.
How do you handle safety planning for the competitors and spectators?
That's you know, I mean, so our number one ethos is safe, fun and friendly. So safety's number one in our sport. It's a bit of an edgy game. We've got a pretty thick manual on all the safety regulations. So each event has not only a traffic management plan but a safety plan as well. And that has every intersection, where the tape's got to go, where the block marshals have got to stand, and you know, there can be 100 intersections in one rally, and there's a site-specific safety plan for every intersection along that route. So it's pretty detailed, but it needs to be, because you don't get second chances with safety. No,
you don't. And I think it's great, like even in briefings when you say, look, you put the emphasis on, if you pass someone that's you're unsure, make sure you slow, as a fellow competitor, slow down and stop, and at the end we'll sort out the time and get a rerun, take the pressure away to try to go fast.
Exactly. No, safety's got to be the number one, and we're like brothers in arms. We're here for each other. If you crash, you want the next car to stop for you. If somebody crashes, you've got to stop for them, and it doesn't become about times or a competition anymore. It becomes about looking after each other and keeping each other safe.
Have you ever had any major curveballs thrown at you just before an event or during an event? How'd you deal with it? It's
kind of like you're always going to get something. It's never going to be perfect. And so we had one gentleman just before Dargaville last year, and it was about a week before the rally, and he said that he wasn't happy with us using the roads that went past his farm, and that I had to cancel the rally immediately that day, or he would be taking me to the Supreme Court.
And all,
So I just said to him, well, we won't be cancelling the rally. We've got all the council and the resident approval. Apart from you, we'd spoken to 200 residents, and we had one guy that wasn't keen, but I said that if he didn't have anything more to do with his time and money than take me to the Supreme Court, then go for it. And he realised he was being a bit of a dick.
Right, that's good. Because one person out of 200 derailing an event.
It's 99.5%, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty good, and I don't think we've achieved those sort of numbers in New Zealand as far as residents' consent. So we don't just drop a letter in their mailbox. We actually go down the driveway, knock on the door, face-to-face engagement, have a chat to them, find out the issues while they're small and while they're concerns, deal with most of it straight away, and then go back to the committee if there's any serious problems.
And probably demystify the sport a bit to people that aren't familiar as well, and go, look, we're not all petrol heads out to create a nuisance. We're here, it's a serious sport, we're trying to do, work.
And we also get the community group involvement, which the residents really like, and so the community groups will help us with the block marshals on the stages, and we give them a koha donation of $750 to their sports club or their community group, and then encourage them to come out to the spectator point that's in that stage, set up their barbecue, sell some cakes and cookies and some sausages and some steak, and it becomes a fundraising opportunity for them, and then the residents who are part of that group, they think it's fantastic.
And that's how you grow the sport too, if you get kids along, and it
makes it a win-win for everybody.
So I guess certain residents that at the last second decide to kick up a stink aside, are there any other like headaches or like big headaches for you guys as organisers?
The weather's really the one that's outside of our control, and if it pours with rain just before a rally, you know that the roads are going to cut up, you know they're going to get wrecked. Taking a risk on running the rally, especially if you're using repeat stages, so that's the one that, until 1 or 2 days out from the rally, you can't mitigate, but you just got to try and roll the dice and run with it.
Yeah, cool. And sort of lastly, what's something you wish all us competitors understood more or knew more about the work behind the scenes?
Probably just there's probably fault on the organisers' side as well, and not sharing this kind of information, and for us to be more transparent so that the competitors do have a better understanding. As it's a jigsaw puzzle of 10,000 pieces, I call it, and there's so many little pieces that all have to fit together to make it successful on the day. So I'm sure if we sort of educate or be more transparent as to what goes on behind the scenes,
and it'll
give everybody a better understanding of the big picture that we're all trying to achieve.
Yeah, well, we can send them this this video after this. It'd be good. And then just a couple fun ones. So what got you into organising rallies? I know you competed in rallies for a long time, but what's
on the organising side, it was really that I was going to the South Island and rallying down there and having an absolute blast, just like I did when I first started, and then flying back to Auckland and look around for any rallies happening in the North Island, and it was really only the NZRC rounds that were happening, and I kind of thought, somebody has to do something about this or the sport's going to go down the gurgler. So I looked around for volunteers, and it was the guy in the mirror that ended up deciding that if somebody's got to do it, then it's got to be me. And then I spoke with Rob and Hedgie, and they thought it was a fabulous idea, so it kind of grew from there, really. And I'm a reluctant event organiser. Actually, coordinating the series is quite easy because the clubs do most of the hard yards in organising the events. But with the clubs struggling a little bit at the moment, then we've kind of had to take a bit of a leadership role and put on some events under the joint venture partnership to try and get those rallies on the calendar. And
have that strategic vision of,
that's it. And it's gaining momentum, and it's gaining traction, and the clubs are all starting to work together now, and they're helping each other out at various events, and it's starting to come together. So our vision for the next 2 or 3 years is that we'll carry on this upward trajectory and restore it back to the good old days, hopefully. And
the glory of the 90s.
But then hopefully the economy will be better, and if we can get 90 or 100 competitors back out into a rally, that takes away that financial risk.
100%. And what's the most rewarding part of, maybe in one word or something like that, what's the most rewarding part about the end, when you finish at the end of the event and you look back on the day?
It's a huge relief. You kind of go, oh, hallelujah. And then that hardly comes out of your lips, and then you think, righto, now what are we going to do better next year, and how can we lift the bar a little bit more each time to make it better? So a bit like rally drivers, we're kind of in pursuit of excellence, and as organisers, that's what we want to be as well, and try and make our events more challenging and more variety and more fun and more friendly. But yeah, the feeling of elation, I mean, I get just as excited before one of my events that I'm organising is coming up as I did when I was competing. I mean, how crazy is that? All the pieces need to come together, and I mean, we're so lucky we've got wonderful people in this sport. You know, it's
a great community.
Wonderful people, and we all, you know, the one thing that brings us all together is our love of rallying and sliding around gravel roads. So we all come from different ethnicities and backgrounds and all the rest of it. That what really unites us is the sport. So we believe that if we just focus on what's on the best interests and the growth of rallying, then everything else kind of dissipates into power trips and ego.
And if we've got time, just a couple fun ones. What's your favourite rally car ever?
Favourite rally car would probably be the Evo 3 that I had, Kempy's Bitsumitsu, Alan Kemp. That was supposed to be for Kim Austin, that car. But we took it over once Kim passed, and we called it Slapper because it just loved it when it was wet and dirty and rough, and it was such a cool car. But I've been lucky enough to drive a couple of really other cool cars as well. One of them was the carbon fibre Evo 8 of Andrew Hawkswood we took to Pikes Peak in America, and then also the twin turbo 3 litre WRX that we did at Race to the Sky down in Cardrona, Cardrona Valley. Like, the faster and the gruntier the car is, the more you like it, right?
For sure. What about the biggest slide or spin or moment that you had in rally that you completely, like 100% got away with?
Wow. Well, there's been a few. I'm quite a lucky guy, but I've had a few hits too. We went and competed in New Caledonia over there, and we came out of this tight, twisty stuff onto this open public road, and there are people lining the roads both sides, and we're tapping it out in top gear and tipped it into the corner and went completely off the road and through this big car park, and I'm looking out the side window at this concrete power pole coming straight towards us, and I just pulled the handbrake on and flipped it in backwards. We went past the power pole, and I'm looking in the rear vision mirror. Now we're about to smack into the residents' cars, so I start changing down and throttling it, and we just came within about 6 inches of the car, and then went forward again, went flying through the paddock, up on the road, just about off on the other side, and back down. And my co-driver said to me, "You are going to kill me if you keep driving like this. You've got to cut it out." But it was just so exciting at the time, and we were lucky to get away with it.
Was this before or after we had like GoPros in cars and things like that?
Oh, that was before.
That would have been a good one. And what about the last one? Is rain or dust? Which is worse?
I'd say dust is probably the worst because, you know, wherever the wind is and wherever the trees are, where it hangs, you can have light dust or dense dust. The rain you can pretty much mitigate with your wipers, but there's not much you can do about the dust, especially if you catch a car. Like if somebody's had a problem and they pull out in front of you and stuff, that's, you know, I've nearly crashed so many times just trying to get close enough to get past, but they can't see out their side mirrors because of all the dust as well, and you just got to try and learn to back off a little bit and not risk everything for the sake of trying to get past the car in front.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Marty.
Good one, Nate.
Really, really good to
catch
hear
up.
That. Yeah, appreciate that.